Hello, my name is Septian Cahyo. I'm from Indonesia. I would like to explain about my piece for this project and how I collaborate with musicians from Southeast Asia region. But before I explain that process, I would like to introduce first how gamelan was used and developed in new music scene in Indonesia. Gamelan has a strong stand in Indonesia's contemporary music scene. The new music scene in Indonesia mostly not only exploring gamelan instruments as a sound source, but they also developing the gamelan musical language. We can see how gamelan and its musical language was used and developed by composers from Ki Cokro generation to Dion Nataraja generation. How they use gamelan and its musical language for their artistic purpose. Ki Cokro was a notable composer, gamelan composer in his generation. I found something unusual in his piece titled Ronda Malam, where he negates the function of instruments in the gamelan ensemble. As we know, each instrument in gamelan ensemble has their own roles, has their own function in the ensemble. In this piece, he negates the bonang that usually used to introduce the song or the gending with gender. So in his piece, gender was used to introduce his piece. So this kind of negation remind me of the substance of this negation reminds me of Helmut Lachenmann music. When Lachenmann negates pitch-based material to the noise material in his early pieces. And from 70s generation, there is Paul Gutama Sugio. Paul Gutama formed an ensemble, a gamelan ensemble. The name is Banjar Gruppe. This group not only played traditional music for gamelan, but also new music piece for gamelan, especially by Gutama himself. Paul Gutama Sugio had an idea to deconstruct a tradition from its ethnographical context. And he called it musik leluhur baru. In English is new source music. And I found a statement by him in Dieter Mark's book. He wrote, I'm practicing the construction. A further step in the innovative process is made when structural concepts are freed from their ethnographic context and taken as abstract, emerge as object of compositional speculation. This kind of negation also happened in Iwayan Sadra's music. There is a famous statement by him: free the sound from its cultural burdens. This statement was manifest in his piece, in the way how he uses gamelan instruments in his pieces. In his piece, for example, titled Daily, he used gongs not like in the traditional way as instruments that have responsibility to determine the structure in a gending. In that piece, Sadra put gongs on the floor and dragged it over the floor to produce unique sounds. And in my opinion, that way of deconstruction had opened a new horizon of gamelan music. And there is another good example of how Indonesian composer using gamelan. And this one is from Dion Nataraja. In his piece, Dion combines spectral music techniques with gamelan. Through that approach, he wants to metaphorically abstracting gamelan from its history by abstracting it into its basic elements, its spectra, for his artistic purposes. As I mentioned before in the first session of this video about Dion's approach on gamelan, I found Dion and I have a similarity in terms of utilizing the tradition for several purposes. by doing spectra analysis in the beginning of the process. For example, in my virtual sound installation, I also did spectra analysis and on Saron and took the result and put it in the visual element to create a semantic meaning of my disagreement to Schoenberg's statement. In my new piece for this project, for AYE project titled Maghrib, I also did spectra analysis to support my idea in this piece. However, in this spectra analysis, the result doesn't have any message like in Dion's approach to liberate the sound from its connotation, exotism, nationalism, etc., or criticizing something like in my virtual sound installation. In this piece, the use of spectra analysis, the editor will put the spectra picture here. On Sarons, the spectra analysis on Sarons in this piece is to get some frequencies that I can use to build this piece. For example, to create a beating effect. Because from the spectra analysis and its modification, I got some micro intervals that possible to be used in my piece to realize my idea. That's how I deal with the gamelan instruments timbre in this piece. This piece itself divided into 3 sections. The first section, I made the texture and density of this piece become more saturated or more dirty by using complex rhythmic layers and some extended techniques that support its saturation goals. In the second section, I exposed some frequencies from the spectra analysis and its modification to create a beating effect and made the texture of this section, of the second section, more flowing. This beat frequencies effect produced by micro intervals, combination, and extended technique that I found during my observation with Fides, the banduria player. And after the second section, I start to build the tension by recalling the tension from the first section into the third section, but in the shorter version. So in this section, I try gradually building up its energy, recalling the energy from the first section into the third section, but shorter. The energy means the use of drastically changing in dynamics, texture, rhythmic complexity, etc. to boost the energy toward the climax part at the end of this piece. In this part of this video, I will explain about how I collaborate with musicians. So before I start to compose this piece, I did some observations with musicians, especially with musicians that play instruments from Southeast Asia region. The first musician is Jocelyn. Jocelyn is a Sheng player. In the beginning, I start to ask her some questions via Facebook. This question is about how the possibility of playing some techniques, and then how to write the notation. So in the beginning, our process is via Facebook. To working together from 1st of November. So I asked her about some technique possibilities in Sheng, and then she gave me some explanation and some picture. Like here, she gave me some picture of how the fingering works in Sheng, and then she also gave me some fingering chart for me to look which one is possible and which one is not. And then I start to compose. After that, I sent her some parts, some screen capture of my piece, only some parts. After our first conversation via Facebook, I start to compose and send her excerpt of Sheng part, and then she recorded it and sent it back to me. and then I start to listen the result and so on. After Facebook conversation, then we decide to do online meeting. In this online meeting, Jocelyn explained to me about some techniques, especially about tremolo effect with Husher and Shuitu
Yeah, so we do
techniques.
pusher on like lower register pitches where the reeds are a bit more like the tongue is a bit more bigger and it's easier to move. It's kind of even.
But
It's like
in,
even.
in,
But
in
then when
bar 22 and 23, you can do it, right? I heard the recording.
not
last
very
time.
evenly. That one was okay. So normally when Sheng players, right, when we are faced with pieces that the Husha is really not possible to really do very nicely, we fake it through. We do a sort of like double tonguing instead, but it's a double tongue meant to resemble the Husha technique. So normally if I were to do Husha on the highest pitch, it will be a bit uneven, it'll be like this. It's a bit like erratic, like because it
After discussing about Husher, Shuitu, flutter tongue, etc., Jocelyn gave me another extended technique reference. It called palm vibrato on resonator. How it works, what makes it difficult,
This one?
and how to notate it, and so on.
So it's, oh, sorry. Hmm. This one, this F with this one.
oh, you want me to do this technique, is it?
Yeah, so this one is using that technique, and this one without that technique.
Oh, cannot because it's a different type. So F would be this type.
Yeah. I mean the D sharp. I mean the D sharp is normal and F with the technique. Is it possible?
Yes.
The second
Okay.
musician is Fides. Fides play banduria and octavina. We start the process by discussing about about original tuning of banduria and octavina, and how to write it, how to
Yes, yes.
write the
It should be
notation
three.
for
Uh-huh.
banduria and octavina.
So
Okay.
the first set is grouped in three.
Uh-huh.
The second one,
3 also.
three again. Yeah, 3
Mhm.
also. And then the third one, three. But
Mhm.
when you go to the fourth and fifth, there are only two. Here, the tuning of the instrument. So when we write it, it's when we write the notation for bandura and octavina, it's just the same.
Okay.
It's just that really it's just the sound that's different. Okay, the
Okay.
octave. Huh?
So the treble clef.
Yes, it's both
to
a treble clef. So this is the first string, the G above the staff,
Okay.
and then the D, and then etc. There you go.
After that,
It's
we
just
go
the sound
further.
is different.
We discuss about the possibility to retune the strings of banduria to get beating effect.
The above one is lower, and
Okay, the above one here.
yeah, above. So this one is lower. This is original, and this one is higher.
Okay, okay.
And then after after we discuss about the possibility to retune the string,
Nice beating.
we go further. I asked her about the possibility to use glissando technique with glass or metal slider and combine it with Evo.
First, wow.
From the third until the first, it works.
So this is first. Yes, first. Second. Third.
Fourth. Actually, it works. I
Very
think.
soft.
Yeah.
It works, but very
After
soft.
that,
Mm-hmm.
I discussed
It works.
still beating effect, but this time not using glass, not using slider. This time only sustaining the strings with electric bow, but also combine it with left hand pizzicato to produce and prolong the beating effect.
Can you keep the there, and then you pull the third string repeatedly? I think it can produce beating, right?
Yeah.
Again.
Oh, there.
The third musician
Yeah.
is Dini. Her name is Dini. She play gamelan. Since I myself also play gamelan, I already know some extended techniques that possible to be played on sarons. So in this discussion with Dini, we talk more about the notation and some technical issue. So the first one is discussing about technical explanation.
This is the position of saron in my piece, because the performer will perform this both saron. It will be like piano. So and I'm using several techniques, several mallets and techniques. For example, here I'm using gender mallets. Usually gender mallets has a red clothes in it, but I need the performer to remove that kind of clothes, so it will be only the wood mallet itself, and it will be four, two in the right hand, two in the left hand, something like that. And for here it means saron mallet, so it just ordinary mallet, but it will be played like this T position,
After that,
mallet
we
of saron.
start to
It's like hammer, right?
discuss about the possibility using some mallets, the position, and then the material of mallet itself and how it sounds and so on.
Kind of slide glissando.
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 Which mallet will you use for the glissando?
Saron.
Yes.
So it will be
But
changed.
maybe you can try both in the rehearsal using both the hammer and the vibraphone mallet, and let Peter tie that which one is
Okay.
good, because for the pianissimo it's very good to use the vibraphone.
Okay, yeah, I understand. But okay, I will take that option. But I think it will be difficult to change mallet outside of gamelan mallets, because there's no time to change after this. But
Yeah,
let's see.
that's the end of this video about how I collaborate with musicians from Southeast Asia region. Thank you.